Now that we are in the last few days before Veilguard's release, I've begun to wonder what questions will be answered, what mysteries will be solved, what plot points could be wrapped up, and what long-held fan theories will be confirmed. Dragon Age is full of these mysteries, theories, and long-standing plot threads, and each new entry to the series always wraps up one or two, or at least provides a bit more information, and I've begun to wonder which ones are going to get wrapped up in Dragon Age The Veilguard. Now, I've specifically chosen questions, plot points, and theories that are unrelated to any previous choices from past games, so these shouldn't be affected by the limited choices we'll be picking at the start of Veilguard. Number 1. What is the purpose of the Lilium Idol? First introduced in Dragon Age 2, the Lilium Idol is an idol made out of pure red lyrium. It depicts three figures, two at the front and one in the back, which are believed to either be lovers embracing or a god mourning her sacrifice. Hawk and Varric, along with Varric's brother Bartrand, find the idol on an altar in the primeval Tig. Within moments, the idol corrupts Bartrand, leading to him abandoning Hawk and Varric so he can make off with the idol for himself. Some years later, after it drove him insane, Bartrand sold the idol to Knight Commander Meredith, who had reforged it into a sword. This sword gave Meredith incredible powers, but like Bartrand, it drove her insane and paranoid. Eventually, after using the blade too much in a battle with Hawk, it exploded, turning Meredith into a statue of pure red lyrium. Years later, as seen in the short story Did Red Wolf Take You?, Inquisition agent Charter met with representatives from several organizations from across and beyond Thedas to discuss Solas's plans to restore the ancient Elven Empire and their interactions with the idol. From this meeting, we were able to learn that a group of carded dwarves were able to retrieve the idol from Meredith's statue. From there, it changed hands to a man from Devinter to an agent of Solus, who then inadvertently gave it to a member of House Denarius. Here it was being used to recreate the ritual that gave Fenris his powers. While this ritual was being stopped, as seen in the Rates of Devinter series, the idol was taken by Tractus Denarius to the Mortalitasi, looking for their help to cast a ritual to stop the ongoing Qunari invasion. And supposedly, according to the Mortalitasi, the Dread Wolf himself stopped this ritual. After this, a member of the Mortalitasi stole the idol. It was eventually retrieved by Solus at an auction house in the city of Lemerin in Ravane. The last time we've seen the idol was in the 2018 trailer for Dragon Age The Veilguard, where its importance was heavily implied. So why does Solus care about it? Why is it important, and what's its purpose? Well, to start with that first question, Solus cares about the idol because it's his, or at least we're told it's his. This line is said in the Dread Wolf Take You, where a member of the Mortalitasi is telling everyone her interaction with Solus. And it is possible that this is a lie, as it is heavily implied that everyone here at this meeting is lying. However, since Solus is at this meeting in disguise and never contradicts this, and is the one to say the idol is in his hands, I think it's safe to assume that the idol does belong to Solus and he does have it. But what's its purpose? I, like most people, I assume thought it would be what would allow Solus to tear open the veil. As in early concept art for Veilguard, we saw Solus cutting into the veil with a dagger, and in Devinter Nights there's a moment where a blade extends from the bottom of the idol. The idol is also shown to be able to weaken the veil, as seen in Dragon Age 2. However, we know that Solus uses the Lyrium dagger to cut open the veil, and he supposedly finds that in Arlathan Forest in the Dragon Age comic The Missing. So, what will the idol do? I think that the idol will be used in one of two ways. Firstly, it will be the opposite of the dagger. Where the dagger tears open the veil, perhaps the idol will be used to seal it, but that's not really what we've seen the idol do. As I said, in Act 2 of Dragon Age 2, the idol has weakened the veil in Bartrand's house, causing demons to spill out of the Fade, and I think that could also be its purpose in Veilguard. What if the dagger and the idol are a pair, originally meant to do the same thing, tear open the veil, but the idol became corrupted by the blight, and now it doesn't work properly? Maybe where the dagger is like a scalpel, carefully cutting the veil open, the idol is more like a battering ram, meant to break down the veil in one quick go. And Solus decided not to use it as there'd probably be too much of a risk of letting all the Evanuris out. And maybe that's where it is now, with the escaped Evanuris, Elgernon and Gillenan, or maybe they're off looking for it. We don't really know what Elgernon and Gillenan's goals are, but it's safe to assume that they want to rule Thedas again. But maybe they want or need the other Evanuris to do that, or maybe they just need to tear down the veil as well. And since Rook has the dagger, maybe they need the idol instead. Number 2. Where are the first Darkspawn? The Magister's Sidereal, the 7 Magisters of the Devinter Imperium and the High Priests of the Old Gods were the first ones to open the veil and physically enter the Fade over 1,000 years before the events of the series. When the Magisters entered the Fade, their goal was to enter the Golden City and attain godhood. However, when they entered, they, at least according to Chantry, corrupted heaven, returned to Thedas as the first Darkspawn, and started the Blights. However, according to one of the Magisters, the city was already corrupted by this point. Added to this are some hints in the Codex entries, and some already released shots from Veilguard seem to hint that the Blights predate the Magisters entering the Fade. The Magister's Sidereal entering the Fade is such an important part of Dragon Age lore that it is literally the first thing said to us in the entire franchise, and they themselves can continue to play a role in the series. But despite all of their importance, we know very little about them and what they're up to, and that's what I really want to see. Over the series, we've met 2 of the Magisters so far, the Architect and Corypheus. However, there were 7 in total, which means there are 5 unaccounted for that could turn up. Now, in Dragon Age Inquisition, you can find some of Corypheus' memories where he questions if the other Magisters even escaped the fate, but we have 2 bits of information that say that they did. The first bit of evidence is that we have met the Architect, so we know at least one of them did escape. But the second is a codex entry, a different Darkspawn, which can also be found in Inquisition. The journal penned by an unknown writer appears to be quite old, with many of its pages damaged by water and dust. The entries that can be read all appear to be about 20 years old. We finally found a Mook alive in that passage. Still can't believe it. The only reason I didn't stop digging is because he had the key to the cache. But after 2 weeks, I was expecting to find it on a corpse. What story does he come up with? That he was found by a Darkspawn of all things. A talking Darkspawn, polite as he pleased, who fed him and gave him water, and evidently chatted with him about the surface. I don't know what a Mook is thinking, coming up with a story like that, but he swore by the stone it was all true. Crazy as it sounds, I know a Mook, and he's got the imagination of a dull hammer, so why would he be making something like that up? Reminds me of a story my grandsire used to tell about something his grandsire did. Said he once came upon a group of 3 Darkspawn in the deeper roads, each twice the size of a dwarf, bigger than humans even, and dressed up like kings. He watched from the shadows as they talked like people, about things he couldn't understand. A city gone black, and they blamed each other for things but could barely remember for what. My mum was like that. Never remembered a slight, just that she was angry. Story goes they attacked each other, and one ran off while the second choked the third to death and then ate him. Don't know about Darkspawn having talking kings, never mind polite ones that give you food and tea. But maybe a Mook met one of them. Here's strange things in the deeper roads after all. Things the Shapers can't even recall. As if smuggling wasn't dangerous enough. So first off, who did a Mook meet? Well, it's marked as being 20 years before Inquisition, which makes it 10 years before Origins. So it's possible he met the Architect as he was operating in and under Ferelden at this time. But it's also possible it was one of the others. Regarding the other 3 mentioned in the Codex, this lends some weight to the idea that Corypheus was wrong and that at least some of the other Magisters survived. And even though it mentions that one of them was killed and eaten by one of the others, we know that Corypheus, like an Archdemon, can regenerate into another tainted body when killed. Maybe the rest of the Magisters can as well. This could mean that any of the Magisters, including the Architect, could be alive. It's also possible that even Corypheus could still be alive in some way, as it is implied that the Inquisitor banished his soul to the Fade upon defeating him, not really outright killing him. I would be really interested in seeing the other Magisters' sidereal return in Veilguard, perhaps under the control of the Evanurus like the other Darkspawn, or perhaps acting as a counter to them, trolling some of the Darkspawn and trying to resist the Elven gods, maybe even trying to finish the Architect's plan to fully free the Darkspawn, or Corypheus' plan to fully take control of the Devinter Imperium. While I think seeing the Magister's sidereal in Veilguard is a long shot, I really do hope we learn more about them. Who they were, did they survive, and what's their connection to the Evanurus. A big theory is that the Evanurus played a part in luring them into the Golden City, and I do think that the connection between the Evanurus and the Magister's sidereal is something we could learn about. Number 3. What are the Archdemons / Old Gods? So what really are the Old Gods? I think this is something at least I've been thinking about since the very beginning of the series, because since the beginning it's been made very clear that they are not gods. Or at least that's what the Chantry says. The Old Gods are ancient beings that took the form of dragons, and they were worshipped by people all across Thedas, but most devoutly in the Devinter Imperium. Legend said that the Old Gods were trapped deep underground by the Maker, but while they slumbered they were able to teach the human mages about blood magic, and tempt a Magister's sidereal into entering the Golden City where they became the first Darkspawn. However, a lot of this is legend and has either been confirmed to be wrong or at least hinted at. Some believe that the Old Gods were powerful dragons, the likes of which no longer exist, while others believe they were old and powerful spirits that took the form of dragons. What is known to be fact is the connection that the Old Gods have with the Darkspawn. The Darkspawn are constantly looking for the imprisoned Old Gods, and when they find them, they corrupt them, turning them into an Archdemon and beginning a new blight. By now there have been 5 blights, each one has ended with the death of an Archdemon, leaving us with just 2 left. And for a long time, many fans have speculated that we would be seeing both of them in Veilguard. There have been theories for a long time on the connection between the 9 Evanurus and the 7 Old Gods. Fans have speculated on whether the Evanurus and the Old Gods were the same beings, or whether the Old Gods were the personal companions, bodyguards, or lapdogs for the Evanurus. And this one is usually the most popular theory. So with these connections and theories between the two, it would make sense that Elgranon and Gilanon would summon their old pets, allies, or servants to protect and aid them. Now very quickly, I'm going to mention that I don't think the dragons that we've seen in the trailers are Archdemons. Or at least not all of them. In the high-level combat trailer, it does refer to the dragon attacking Whitesalt Fortress as an Archdemon, but we don't see this dragon / Archdemon with Gilanon in the other trailers, as the horns don't match up. It does match to this dragon seen in the companion trailer fighting Tash, but that to me just seems to be a regular dragon. Also, one of the dragons with Gillenon is called Corius, the Ice Talon, and Corius is not one of the names of the last two old gods. So maybe Gillenon has an archdemon at some point and we take it out, forcing her to corrupt dragons as replacements, or these are all just corrupted dragons and not archdemons. In the end, I just want to know what the old gods are. Are they powerful dragons or spirits? Are they the personal pets or servants of the elven gods? Or are they something more, something different? Number 4. The Forgotten Ones. According to Dalish legends, there were two elven pantheons. The Evanuris, the benevolent gods who sought to protect the elven people, and the Forgotten Ones, dark opposites of the Evanuris who oversaw the worst aspects of life, like hate and disease. However, given what we know about the Evanuris, we can only speculate on how accurate this description of the Forgotten Ones actually is. The Forgotten Ones have been mentioned in every game so far, but our knowledge of them is incredibly limited, and this is something I've wanted fleshed out for a long time. According to elven stories, both elven pantheons were locked in a long drawn out war. This war ended when Fen'Harel, aka Solus, tricked the Forgotten Ones into journeying into the Abyss, and the Evanuris into withdrawing into the heavens. He then betrayed both groups, sealing them away forever. And we know that the Evanuris part of the story is true, and that he did it to protect the elven people. But when Solus tells all of this to the Inquisitor in the Trespasser DLC, he never mentions the Forgotten Ones. What we do know about them following their imprisonment is that some elves worshipped them when the elves ruled over the Dales, however their followers were heavily persecuted. And in modern times, some Dalish clans worship the Forgotten Ones. They wear crimson valisthine and supposedly sacrifice their enemies to their dark gods. There are many theories surrounding the Forgotten Ones, that they are also the Forbidden Ones or other powerful spirits, that perhaps they were the Titans or the Old Gods, or maybe they were other powerful elven mage lords no different than the Evanuris. My own theory is a bit far-fetched, but at the same time I think it makes a lot of sense. I think they may have been Solus's friends and allies. We know that when Solus was working against the Evanuris to save the elven people, he had many other elves helping him. What if the Forgotten Ones were the people working with Solus? Maybe they were the most important members of his rebellion, its leaders. Or perhaps the Forgotten Ones was the name they gave to their rebellion. We know that a secret greeting used by those Solus trusted the most used the name of one of the Forgotten Ones, Anaris. Maybe that greeting is to honour someone important in Solus's resistance, someone who maybe gave their life early on. However, it should be noted that in the Elven language, words can be used in other ways. Solus means pride and can be used without referring to the character Solus. My theory also lends a little bit of weight to the Forgotten Ones being depicted as dark gods, because it was Solus's actions of defeating and sealing away the Evanuris that caused the collapse of the Elven Empire, or at least as far as we know anyway. So it would make sense that the Elven people would blame the fall of their empire on Solus and the Forgotten Ones, and that's why they're both depicted as dark entities, dark gods who should not be worshipped. But if I'm right and they worked for Solus, why did he seal them away? Well, I have two ideas. The first is that he didn't. Maybe he just put them into Uthenera, the deep sleep following the collapse of the Elven Empire. Maybe he had hoped he could wake them up again one day, long after he had rebuilt the Empire and they could all enjoy their victory together. Or perhaps they just went too far. Perhaps they started to become like the ones they fought against and eventually Solus had to stop them too. Number 5. Who are the Executors? We know very little about what lies beyond Thedas. We know to the south, past the Kokari Wilds and Arbor Wilds, is a frozen wasteland known as the Sunless Lands. The west are lands that are supposedly nearly impossible to reach, but that the hero Ferelden has journeyed to them in the hopes of finding a cure to the blight. To the west also lies a mysterious group of traders, the Voshi, while to the north lies the ancestral homelands of humanity and the Kunari. However, there are other groups from beyond Thedas. They come from beyond the seas and have recently taken a great interest in Thedas and her people. The Executors. The Executors are a shadowy organisation that were first mentioned in Dragon Age Inquisition, where they contacted the Inquisition when Corypheus was threatening to attain godhood. The Executors seem to be representatives from another group outside Thedas, referencing their leaders as powers across the sea. It is known that they are well organised and maintain a number of agents across Thedas, but their motives are unknown. During the events of Dragon Age Inquisition, there is a war table mission where they acknowledge the threat of Corypheus and that the Inquisition is the best chance of stopping him. However, if Cullen is used in the war table mission, they refer to their own mission as a higher cause. The last time we see an Executor was in the short story The Dreadwolf Take You. Here, members of various organisations, including the Executors, meet to discuss Solus, his plans, and their interactions with him. Before the Executor can contribute to the meeting, Solus, who is in disguise, covertly turns them to stone before killing all but one of the other attendees. Before Solus leaves, he warns Charter, a representative of the Inquisition and the only survivor, that those across the sea are dangerous. So who are they and what do those they represent want? They obviously see Solus as a threat and he sees them the same way. I think this is something we're probably only just going to get hinted at or lightly expanded on. There seems to be a lot going on in Veilguard with Solus, the Evanuris, the Darkspawn, the Venatori and the Kunari. Adding another major player like the Executors may be just too much. but having them appear in a minor way would be great. Let us know who they are, what they represent, and what they want. Why have they recently become so focused on Thedas in such a public way? Perhaps they secretly represent some major power we are already aware of, or more likely some new faction that plans on moving on Thedas soon. Originally, I, and I imagine others, thought that Rook or one of our companions would be an Executor, or maybe at least tied to them in some way. And this could still happen. We do always need a companion to betray us after all, so maybe they will appear in some small way or influencing one of our companions. Or perhaps we've just met the future antagonist for a future entry in the series. Number 6. What is Meredith up to? This one might raise a few eyebrows if you haven't seen Dragon Age Absolution. Knight Commander Meredith Standard, or perhaps you prefer the Crimson Knight, was the Knight Commander of the Templar Order in Kirkwall and the main antagonist for Dragon Age 2. And as I mentioned at the start of the video, she was turned into a statue of pure red lyrium after her sword, which had been made from the red Lilium Idol, exploded. And this is where her story ended. Or at least it did until Dragon Age Absolution came out. Dragon Age Absolution is an animated series on Netflix that follows an elven rogue and former Tevinter slave named Miriam. Absolution sees Miriam and her gang as they steal a powerful magical artifact from one of the most powerful mages in the Tevinter Imperium. Absolution is a very self-contained story, and I originally thought it highly unlikely that the characters or plot would be seen in Veilguard, especially since it takes place just after Inquisition, 10 years before Veilguard. I won't go through all of Absolution's plot, but at the end it is revealed that there is a secret player working in the shadows, operating from Kirkwall and going by the name the Crimson Knight. This is Meredith, and she is planning an all-out holy war. Meredith is leading some Red Templars, maybe all of them, and plans on using all of the Templars, not just the Red ones, to finally bring down the Tevinter Imperium. Absolution's story ends here, with Meredith's operatives bringing her the magical artifact and Miriam and her friends in pursuit, with no knowledge of Meredith's involvement. Now unfortunately, Absolution only got one season, and that's all it's going to get. However, YouTuber Kyla Elizabeth posted on Twitter recently that she had spoken with and asked John Epler, creative director of the Dragon Age franchise, about any possible resolution for Absolution. Epler basically said he would love to do something, just not anytime soon. And I don't think we're going to see anything regarding Absolution or Meredith in Veilguard, at least not in the main game. But I think it would make a hell of a DLC. We would set off to Kirkwall, an area so far removed from the main game it really wouldn't have an effect on the main story, to deal with the last thread of a major plot point from Dragon Age 2, and I think it would be amazing. Getting to explore and see some of our favourite locations again like the Hanged Man, and see some of our favourite characters from Dragon Age 2 like Aveline or Hawk would be a lot of fun. And just quickly regarding choices, I imagine if we did go back to Kirkwall or another past location from a previous Dragon Age game, we just decide on the previous choices from the past games before the DLC started. I know this is a bit of a long shot, but I would love to see it, and I think not making use of Meredith, my favourite Dragon Age antagonist, would be such a waste after it was set up so well at the end of Absolution. And there you have it, some plot points I would love to see resolved and some theories I would like answered. But what do you guys think of my list? Is there anything I missed that I definitely should have put on, or is there something that I'm just reaching too far for? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to check out my social medias like Twitter and Medium, and of course subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all content going forward. And of course, thanks for watching.